Good morning, my friends. I'm Pastor Ben Hayes from First Baptist Church, Dadeville, Alabama, bringing you our thought for the day on this magnificent Monday. What a weekend we had. What a Sunday we had as God moved in power in our service yesterday. I'm so thankful for what He's doing in our church and looking forward to what He has in store for us in the future. But today, First Corinthians chapter 9, picking up in verse 23. Now, we're picking up at the end of a section, so we'll go back and bring this together. But look at what he says. Paul says, "Now this I do for the gospel's sake, that I may be partaker of it with you." Now, what's he talking about? Well, if you look back what he has just said, he says, "I become all things to all people so that I might win some of them to Christ." In other words, he changes his method of proclaiming the gospel. He deals with people where they are so that he can relate to them and they can understand the truth of the gospel and come into the family, be a part of the kingdom. What an important message that is to us. It's an idea of relational evangelism that is so important. Now, I believe in proclaiming the gospel. I believe in witnessing to people, but I also believe that there are times when you have to build a relationship and earn the right to present the gospel before people will listen to you. If you go up to a total stranger, and I can remember this when I was a kid, we would go to these witness trainings, and then they would pair us up with someone, and we'd go out onto the street to share the gospel. And I can remember starting to walk up to this lady who was there to share the gospel, and she just flat told me she didn't want to hear any of it. She wanted nothing to do with it. And, as a kid, that was pretty much, that was a big impression she made on me. And from that point, I realized, it is important that we have a relationship with people so that we can earn the right to share the gospel. Sometimes God calls us to do a cold call presentation, just to go up to a total stranger and to tell them the hope of the gospel. That's because He has already laid the groundwork. He's plowed the ground. He's watered the seed, all of those things, and He's given us an opportunity to be a part of the harvest. But Paul says, now this is the important part, what I want to say here. He says, "I do this for the gospel's sake, that I may be partaker of it with you." In other words, he's training these people in Corinth, helping them to see this is what you need to do. You need to do the same thing and recognize the message never changes. The message is always this: God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whoever believes in Him will not perish, but have everlasting life. That's the message that we proclaim. The method is going to be different. If I'm talking to a group of preschoolers, I'm going to use totally different language and illustrations than I would if I was talking to a group of scientists. And that's what we have to get our minds around, that we're working to take people from where they are to where they need to be. Relational evangelism. It's important. Now look at what Paul goes on to say in verse 24. He says, "Do you not know that those who run in a race all run, but one receives the prize? Run in such a way that you may obtain it." What's he talking about there? What is the prize? Well, I think he's talking about the fact that, first of all, salvation, and the way that we attain salvation is by faith in Jesus Christ. But second, he's talking about that reward that God has promised to those who are witnesses for Him, who share the gospel, who proclaim the gospel. And we need to be sharing the gospel and living our lives in accordance with God's will so that when we get to heaven, we're going to hear those words, "Well done, good and faithful servant." I long to hear those words. I don't want to get there and God says, "Oh, all right, Ben, come on in." I want to hear Him to say, "Well done, good and faithful servant." I want to do everything I can while I'm on this planet to make a difference in the lives of people, to impact people with the gospel of Jesus Christ. I want to run my race knowing that I'm going to receive the prize. Now, here's the good news. We're not competing against each other. We're not. We can all receive the prize by simply trusting in Jesus and living the life that He's called us to live. And look at what Paul says in verse 25. He says, "And everyone who competes for the prize is temperate in all things. Now they do it to obtain a perishable crown, but we for an imperishable crown." That's what he's talking about. The soul winner's crown, the crown that God gives to those people who have this passion for reaching the lost for Jesus. That's what it's all about. That's what we're called to do. And I want you to think about that today. I want you to be that soul winner today. I want you to look for opportunities to share the hope of the gospel with those around you. Be blessed. I'll see you back here tomorrow.